Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center, and this is a podcast dedicated to helping you work on your business, building what I refer to as the premier accounting firm in your area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what you're worth. It's each week on the episodes that we actually have guests, experts that actually share with us insights as to things that we need to consider individually as we're running our businesses, whether it be related to working with our clients, working with our staff, but more importantly, it's insights as to what we can be doing to actually thrive in our companies. And today we're going to have an excellent guest. It's Becky Kemp. Becky happens to be someone I've known for a few years. She's coincidentally actually spoken at GrowCon, and she is a motivational speaker. She is a keynote address speaker, and she actually works as a business coach with individuals as it relates to the power of words. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So Becky, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. So happy to be here.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So here's what I'd like to do just for the audience. I'd like to get some context. What got you into words and the power that comes into words?
Well, in a short version, about 10, 11 years ago, I found myself stuck. I was going through some depression and some anxiety, and I was kind of watching everybody live their life on the outskirts, wishing that I could do what they were doing.
Okay.
So I was watching, and I've always been a prayerful person, so I was praying one day, and this impression came to me: change your words and you can change your story. And what I've come to learn what that means is a lot of times we're waiting for our circumstances to change. If only this was happening, then I could be. And I had fallen into that trap probably pretty hard. And what I realized is that we really can't change our circumstances as much as we want, but we can change where our focus is. And our focus can be on what can I control? What do I have the ability to change instead of waiting for something else? So that was the start of me really becoming aware to my words, the way I was talking to myself and how powerful they were. And then that has just put me on a journey that I never expected, and I'm just discovering so much more. But words really do have power, and we want to become more intentional to them.
Yeah, you're reminding me of two things that are very powerful. One is the phrase that I'm very familiar with and use quite often. It's thoughts become things.
Yes.
That's one. The second is with regards to words, it's the self-talk that we actually do. It's what we're saying to ourselves, and words have meaning. And so we have to understand that how we choose to use those words is impactful. So I know that you became a certified life coach and so forth. In this pursuit of actually mastering words, what did you learn? I mean, how was it at a personal level before we get into all the nuances?
Well, I wouldn't say mastering, because I think that we're always working on ourselves, right? Like sometimes I think people think I just think happy thoughts all the day and I never have problems. I still am a human being. So I think I'm a work in progress with mastering. I just would say that. But what I want to say is, so when I had that impression, change your words, change your story, I'm a mom of 5 boys, and I sat at a lot of baseball games. That's our sport of choice. And I just wanted a positive T-shirt with some positive words. And I couldn't find that out there. And I bet you have a lot of people that listen to this that they are trying to find their niche that's like just a little different, And I wanted this positive T-shirt. I couldn't find what I wanted. And I had this thought, well, maybe you should make it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have that like inspired thought to create something, if you have negative self-talk, what happens? It takes over and it says, that's not an original idea. Who would want your stuff? They would just go here to get that. And you start to kind of talk yourself out of it. But for whatever reason, I think because I was kind of being led to look for the power of words, I kept playing with that idea. And I was shopping with a friend, and we happened to be shopping for T-shirts. And I was telling her, I can't find what I want. I just can't find what I want. And I'm looking on the rack, and I saw this shirt that said, all right, all right, all right. And I know we hear that and we think of Matthew McConaughey, or some people maybe do. That's not what I thought. But I saw those words, and it was like, all right, why don't you create something? Like, this is your little idea. Start. And so I started, that was when I started my first business. And I teamed up with my sister-in-law. Neither of us had ever run a business before, but she was looking for something, and we kind of brought our talents together. And we started. And as you know about starting a business, I mean, you get the business license and you're like, yay. And then you're like, okay, now what?
Now what?
That's exactly what we did when we walked out of the state of Utah getting our business license. It's like, okay, now what? And then we had to figure out how to get the T-shirts and who to design them and what sayings we wanted to say. But during that time, I started to really recognize the power of actually intentionally putting on words.
Yeah.
And I actually had a t-shirt that I could put on that said maybe first things first or easy does it. But that's what really got me kind of formulating that idea that then put me into life coach school and to become a public speaker, all about words. But it was like, what words do you put on today? I like to tell people, most of us think about what we wear every day. Like today's a rainy day and you maybe decided what you wore based on the weather or where you're going to be, what appointments you have. But do we take even 5 or 10 minutes to intentionally put some words into our mind of the kind of day we want to have, the kind of person we want to be? Because what you just said, what you think about, you bring about. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Is the truth. It really is. And
Yeah.
so just to spend a little time on that.
Your story of the t-shirts, I do recall that. And one of the things that always stood out to me is the fact that, today there are these clever sayings that you can find on t-shirts. And yes, you can go out and find some things. You can go to Etsy and get things embroidered. But the fact that you were realizing, I want to put on something. I want to selectively put this on me. There's an action going on there.
Yes.
And that action, I think, is today I'm choosing to put this on. I like that. That was one of the things that really resonated with me simply because I think it's a choice. This is the thing that I'm choosing today. I am powerful. I am enough. It's those phrases that I think from a self-talk point of view can be very impactful, but so often we fail to do it to ourselves. I'm not enough. I can't do this. Why me? Really? Am I going to do this? And we, like you were describing, you start to find all the excuses why not to act rather than those empowering things to say, well, of course not. This is perfect. Let's do this.
Yeah. Like, what do I have to lose? Nothing. Like, go for it, because you can always change your mind later on. But most of us get stuck in when we have that inspired idea or we want to do it, then it's in the steps to get there. And that just overwhelms us. And it's like, just take the first step.
Yeah.
What's the next step you need to do? And then the next step. And by intentionally putting on words that empower you, it keeps you moving forward.
Yeah, there's two things with that I would want to emphasize. One, it's baby steps. I love baby steps. Baby steps is so important. There's a movie that actually does it. It's with Dreyfus, and I want to say it's Bill Murray.
Yes.
Yeah. Love that. Baby steps. It's just get that momentum going, get the inertia, and then all of a sudden you're using activity. You're active, and because of that, you're actually moving forward. But the other thing I wanted to kind of go into is your book. You wrote a book, The Word Effect. And with the book, there's two things I want to ask. One, why write the book? And then the second is, why did you feel the book was necessary?
When I was a little girl, I always wanted to write a book.
Okay.
I always had a dream of being an author and being a speaker and on TV. But I never pursued any of those things. When I graduated high school, I never took any classes to do that because I think I let the fear, the self-talk, the I'm not going to be good enough, keep me from even trying. And, they say we fail ahead of time. That's exactly kind of where I was at. So as I ran, the business that I ran with my sister-in-law was called Becoming Threads. And it was about let what you wear tell your story and intentionally putting on words. We ran that from 2015 to 2019. In 2019, it was time to either grow the business, like from a hobby business to like getting more of a warehouse and scaling it, or to be done. And so we did our research. We went, did the next few steps to try to find out what we were going to do. And we both realized we didn't want to grow it. It wasn't the step for us. But that's when I realized I want to write. I want to write. And it was like, talk about words. And so then I invested in myself. I think it's really important for you to invest in yourself with coaches, with mentors, conferences. I have not been able to figure out this stuff on my own. And I don't think we're meant to. We're supposed to be working with other people. It's that connection piece. And at that time, I started kind of becoming aware that I wanted to write a book. And my first word, the book is called The Word Effect, 7 Simple Words to Create Your Most Beautiful Life. And I give these 7 words that keep your story moving forward, and everybody can use them. The first word is acknowledge. So for me, I started to acknowledge out loud and to people, I want to write a book. And I got introduced to someone that could help me, that had written several books and that was a media personality. And so I took some courses from her and I just outlined my book. And one night I was on a walk and it just was like, what are the steps that you've taken to get to here? That's what your book's about. And so I was able to just dive into what each of the words were. And each word has purpose in my life. But like if I asked you what acknowledge means to you in success, you would have an amazing story to tell me, right?
And I have one.
Right? So that's what the words, I'm just giving the roadmap. I'm giving words are a compass, and everybody can take those words and create what they need. So the formula is using words to put on the success that you want, to speak your success, whatever that might be. So that's what got me going into it. And I started working through the outlining, and it took a long time. I mean, I remember saying to my husband, he still jokes with me today. I go, I want to write a book. And they say you can just sit down and write it. And I'm going to write it in 6 months. And I started outlining it probably the end of 2019, and I published it at the end of 2023 with Leadership Books. And it was first going to be self-published, and then I found a publisher. And, I didn't know the journey I was on, but I kept taking small steps.
Yep.
And I'm still taking steps. I'm still, moving forward. And I have other ideas for books to start. And I'm sure I'll do more at some point. But, I'm just trying to be present in where I'm at. But that's kind of how I got started with that.
So the 7 words.
Yes.
Is it meant to be a catalyst that when someone reads this, they're actually being inspired as to how those words resonate with them?
Yeah. Yeah. So I share kind of my story, and I give them tools to how they can use that word. How do you acknowledge? What are your dreams? Before we can create anything, it has to be a thought first, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to say what your dreams are. You have to be able to acknowledge those. So through writing prompts, through talking about it, you've got to always remember your vision of where you want to go. Because when the obstacles come, you've got to train your brain to look for solutions, to keep stepping over the obstacles, to step around them, not to sit down and go, I quit. Because I'm sure you've had many obstacles. I continue to have obstacles.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can keep your vision headed in the right direction that you want to go, and that's what the words are. So I always, when I speak, I talk about letting words be your compass, so they can lead and guide you and help you. And you get to choose those words that you intentionally put on today. You get to choose where you're focused. And some days maybe you do have a blah day, and you just give yourself a little bit of grace, but you don't lose your focus to quit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Now, regarding the word acknowledge, I'm going to ask, why the word? So give us a little bit of backstory, why it made the list of 7, and tell me what acknowledge means to you.
Well, I think for me to change anything, you have to acknowledge that you want to change. And so for me, that is the most powerful word to start any sort of change, creation, to innovate anything in that way. You have to acknowledge that you want to change something. You have to acknowledge that you want more out of your life. If you don't, you'll just stay status quo where you're at. So to me, that's just a really powerful word. And what I've come to find out, it resonates in my personal relationships, in my professional relationships. Like if I want a better relationship I said I have all boys. 3 of my boys are married now. If I want a better relationship with my boys, it's up to me to acknowledge that. And what can I do to make that relationship better? Instead of expecting them to call mom, expecting them to take me to lunch, it's like, hey, maybe I can take a day each month and be intentional with that relationship, right? So I just think the word acknowledge is such a powerful word because you can use it in any life experience, professional, whatever, but to acknowledge something. And I want you to think of where you're at today. It probably started with acknowledging, I want to do this. I'm going to try this. It starts with acknowledge.
There are so many things that have come to mind as you've been sharing that. And I have been listening. I mean, acknowledge, there were a few things at the start. One, I'm a God-fearing person. So with faith, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm an instrument in what I perceive to be God's hands.
Yes.
I'm trusting that I can be an angel among people in the sense that I can bless them. Yes. But at the same time, I have to acknowledge that others likewise are there to bless me. I'm in a situation where I have to be receiving that. And so I've got to be open to that. The other thing that comes to mind is I know a person, and I believe you know him as well as Chad Hymas. Mm-hmm. I was having this conversation with him, and he was speaking to the fact that as a quadriplegic, he has to acknowledge that everything he does is dependent upon everyone else helping him. He is in a situation where he has to be dependent upon others, and he has to acknowledge that his means is through others. Everything he's able to accomplish has involved someone else. And that's an acknowledgement. It's him recognizing he needs other people to help. The third thing that came to mind as you were sharing this is in like an AA type situation, in order for you to change, you first have to acknowledge there's something wrong.
Yes.
And you have to admit, I need to change. And until you're willing to accept that there's something that needs correction, you're not going to then go through the steps to correct or change that. That's, I think, one of the first steps as it relates to repenting and acknowledging sin. Those are the things that come to mind. So, I mean, instantly, three things just came rushing to me as it related to acknowledging. So that was really powerful. Give us an idea of what the other six are.
Okay, so the first word's acknowledge.
Yep.
The next step is ask. And I teach people how to ask better questions. So when we run into obstacles, instead of saying, why is this happening? We train our brain to ask, how do I step forward? What's the next step in taking it in little bite-sized things? So ask, and then the next word is accept.
Ah, nice.
And so we do have to find acceptance. And actually, in my book, I've used some of Chad Hymas's story, and I asked him for permission on that because he had a huge thing he had to accept in his story, right? That was not his plan to become a quadriplegic, right? But he's gone on to do amazing things. But if he focuses on the things that aren't going right, that grows. So there's some studies out, but I won't bore everyone with all of them. But one of them I find most fascinating by the National Science Foundation says that the average human being has about 60,000 thoughts a day. A lot of them are subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, our mind's just always thinking things. And 80% of our thoughts tend to run negative. 95% of our thoughts tend to be the thoughts we had the day before. So what that means is if we run negative thoughts and we don't address that, our thoughts really do stop us from creating a lot of things. And if you read, I'm sure you've read success stories of people, entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs fail many times. Most entrepreneurs struggle, but they don't give up. So what's the difference? It's that they train their brain to keep looking for solutions, finding acceptance with, when I fail at something, it doesn't mean the end. It just means, oh, that didn't work. Okay, I'm going to try this, right? But I think you have to have that compass in your mind to keep you moving forward. So accept is the third word. The fourth word is abundance.
Nice.
I love the word abundance. You have to practice abundant thinking. Then we get into action, taking action. And that has a lot to do with kind of managing your thoughts and how they refer to your feelings, determine your actions. So helping people show up feeling confident, showing up determined by their thoughts, because then you're going to take actions differently than if you're feeling insecure and less than, right? You just do. The sixth word is appreciate. It's that gratitude piece. Of course, they started all becoming A words, so I had to keep them all, with the alliteration with that. And then the last word is to aspire. And what I mean by aspiring is we've heard this before, but as you raise one mountain peak, there's always another peak, right? And so as you aspire, what I want people to do is use this framework that any situation they find themselves in, they can use this group of words to keep them moving forward. So today I need to work on abundant thinking. Maybe tomorrow I need to take some action. Yesterday, I was appreciating where I was at when I had to have a hard conversation with someone in, different things like that, right? And so I use those words interchangeably, but they kind of give me the blueprint for moving forward.
Those are beautiful. One of the things that I think entrepreneurs can really relate to are those words, simply because I think that's what they're living, they're experiencing. And it's not that they're doing it without difficulties or challenges, but rather that's what they're aspiring, because they're looking for, how can I do things differently or better than I've seen them done in the past, whether it's a service they're offering, a product they're providing, or more importantly, just what they are doing themselves. So all of those words, as you were sharing them, resonated with me. So the next question I want to ask is related to entrepreneurs. As you interact with them, I know you've spoken to them, you've coached them. What do you feel they most struggle with of those seven? What's the one that's least common?
I think a lot of them can acknowledge, but then it's learning to ask better questions. I think gets people stuck sometimes because we see someone do something and we automatically think we have to do it just like them.
Okay.
And so to learn to ask, how do I step forward? What's my path? I mean, there's so many different ways to build a business, right? And so sometimes we read or we hear, oh, I took these 5 steps. And you're like, okay, I'm going to take those 5 steps. And you take those 5 steps and it doesn't work out, then we kind of get frustrated. So I think just continuing to ask questions and then accepting what's happening, So I'm a member of the National Speakers Association.
Yeah.
Chad Hymas is a member there.
Yes,
he's a well-known, amazing speaker. There's other people like Ty Bennett and Clint Pulver that I just admire and look so much to. Well, my journey is so different than theirs. And sometimes I find myself, I wish I could have their experiences. I wish I could have their opportunities. And when that's where I focus, I lose sight of who Becky is. I lose sight of my gifts and my abilities. So I think sometimes when we're creating things, if we fall into that trap, then it actually holds us back. And I'm like, okay, I have to learn from them, be mentored by them, grow from them. I do think you rub shoulders with other people that are doing what you're doing, but also you have to be authentic to you.
Yeah.
You have to be true to you.
So I'm going to add to that something that I've learned that I feel is very helpful. First of all, to achieve success, I think there's a lot that you can do in mimicking. There are a lot of successful people out there that have gone ahead and you can actually follow the path that they've actually already forged. The beauty of that is mimicry is a form of flattery. You're actually acknowledging someone else's success, but that will only get you so far. At some point, you have to find your authenticity and what's unique about you to then leverage your strengths. So I think the mimicry is kind of leveraging that turnkey element of, okay, here's what's working. Here's what other people are doing. This is obviously what I need to be doing as well. And you can get that ball rolling. But at some point, you've got to say, okay, now I'm like everyone else and I'm being drowned out by everyone else because I don't stand out. How do I now leverage my authenticity and now become one of the 1%ers? That's where you step outside of that mimicry that you've been doing. So I think you need to start there. I think you need to not try and reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can just basically say, okay, there's a turnkey process to this. Let's follow it. But at some point, then you need to lean into your experiences, what's unique about you. What do you have to offer that no one else has to offer? And that's where your product or service starts to stand out even more, simply because you're leveraging your uniqueness.
Yeah, and I would agree. And it was in 2019 when I knew that I wanted to do something more. That I joined the NSA, that I joined the National Speakers Association. And I remember acknowledging walking in there, just feeling like my knees were knocking together. Like, I what do you speak on? Well, I don't know. I kind of words and I want to, but they were inclusive and they invited me and they said, keep coming back. And so I've been a member ever since. And I have evolved. And so I do agree, you have to be around other people that are doing what you're doing to learn. And one of the things is other people that have your same dream and goal, they relate to your highs and your lows and everything in between. And it's like you're speaking a common language, because other people that love speaking kind of know what I feel too, right? Or other people that maybe have written a book, when I tell them my story, they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. And so you feel more connected in your process. So I agree with that. But I also think that the authenticity piece is so important. And as I've been talking, the more you show up, the more clear you get with your voice, right?
Yeah.
I remember that one of the first times I was talking to a publisher and they said, what sets you apart? And it was like, well, I talk about putting on words. And they're like, that's it for you. That's really unique to you because of your experience and your story. Use that because, if I just say, oh, I help people create what they want. Well, everybody says that, right? But then when you kind of think about it, so you do have to find your own voice along the way.
Yes, you do. Well, that is excellent because it's a good segue into what I'd like to ask next.
Great.
The idea of the entrepreneur is we're typically confident. I mean, outside we come across confident.
Yes.
So when we're doing that, sometimes the words we're using can be condescending. Sometimes they can be overbearing. They have an air of arrogance with them. And I'm just kind of curious for those entrepreneurs that seem to be too confident. What can we do to actually maybe use the tone or the words we're using to be more inclusive and more inspiring, more motivating?
It's funny you say that. Just the other day, a mentor of mine that I really respect, she said, Becky, you are pretty determined. You have a pretty determined personality. And I left there thinking, was that nice she was saying that, or was it not nice? Right?
Uh-huh.
Because just with our conversation, I had to think about it. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. There are really good aspects to being determined. When I set my mind to something, I stick with it.
Uh-huh.
But with being a determined personality, sometimes I can be so tunnel vision that I forget to be inclusive. And so I think what I love to say is figure out what that word means to you today. If you're leading a group of people and you're not getting the results that you're wanting, maybe look at how you're presenting the information. Like, it's so much easier to point our finger at other people, but when we point our finger at other people, 3 fingers are pointing back at us, right? We've got to start to look at ourselves. And so it's hard to say, don't use these words, do use these words, because different words mean different things at different times. But I love looking up definitions of words. And so after this mentor of mine said that, I thought, I'm going to really think about what determined means in my life and look at that and go, okay, what are the good points of it? And maybe what are some areas that I could improve upon within the context of being determined? Because I maybe can just get one-sided and not look at other sides at times. So instead of beating myself up, it's just kind of changing. So I would just say becoming aware how that word resonates with you, and then be willing I could always change, or I could always just be more mindful. A lot of this is just bringing awareness. The first chapter of my book just talks about, is there power with words, and giving people a context to become aware that there is. Because before anyone wants to change and even acknowledge their dreams, they have to kind of say, oh, would changing my words even matter?
Yeah.
Right? So I always go back to just awareness is key.
So there are a lot of things going on in my mind right now. One, I'm going to back up and I'm going to say, I think that question was me asking it personally.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the reason why. I've been told that I am a very confident individual, that I have an air about me when I go into things, that I'm intense.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm with people, they find that I'm very driven. Okay. So those are the terms that people will use as they interact with me, and especially in a professional sense.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am knowing that I am intense. I can be overwhelming, driven. I sometimes feel I need to tone things down for people because I can be too intense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just curious if you were going to share some words of wisdom that might actually be applicable to me. So there was maybe a selfish tone to that. But the other thing is I remember in my college days, I went to a class that was very impactful, and it was a communications course. And it's when I realized I was originally thinking that so much communication was written. Because up to that point in college, you're writing a lot of papers. You don't get up and give like a dissertation or anything. It was written. But in reality, we as human beings interact more verbally than we do any other way. And so when we're communicating, it's the art of communication and the words of choice that are being used to communicate the thoughts, the feelings, the intent. I just think words are powerful. And if we use them as they're intended, we can really communicate effectively what we want, what we feel, what we mean. So yeah, this really resonates with me. So anyway.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to ask you this. Okay, so do you like being a driven person?
Very much so.
Okay. Do you like what were the 3 words you said? Driven?
Intense. And what was the other one I said? Driven, intense. I can't remember.
Okay, well, driven and intense.
Yeah,
do you like that? Do you like that?
Oh, love it. Love it.
So
I like having purpose.
So why are you questioning?
Intent.
Why are you questioning it?
No. I'm questioning it only because of the fact that I don't want to be putting off people or intimidating people.
Okay.
So if I can be more inspiring, that'd be much more helpful. I think I do a good job. If you speak to the people I interact with, I think for the most part, although I am intense, I think I am inspiring.
Yes.
Because I intentionally try to do that. To a fault, I try to, when I draft emails, when I communicate with people, I try to leave them happier or more motivated than when they first met with me. Mm-hmm. So that's an intentional thing. And I found that was important because there were times when I would leave and people were feeling overwhelmed. They would feel as if I was very demanding of them. I needed to tone that down. And I think I've done a great job of that over the years. So being the president of a company, I have a position of authority. I walk in with that air. And when I go places, I have something that kind of precedes me. I get that. I'm not a tall individual, but I do have a confidence as to how I physically manifest myself. So I know all those things are there. But when I speak, I want to be a little bit more welcoming, a little bit more embracing. I want to be a little bit more encouraging. And so the words I choose are intentionally with that in mind.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're doing that. I would just say, ask yourself kind of what does intense or confident mean? And can I make sure there's that inspired piece into it, which it sounds like you're doing. Because I think being true to who we are is the gift, right? If everybody was the exact same, life would be so boring.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is you've been given those gifts to be the leader. Not everybody is going to be a leader. Some people will, some people won't, and that's okay. And I also think that if people aren't reacting well, sometimes what I've had to learn is it's more about them than it is about me.
Oh yeah.
Right? I've had to learn that as a coach and as a speaker. Like if someone still leaves and goes, that wasn't for me, that doesn't necessarily mean that the message wasn't good. It just didn't resonate with them right now. But it might later. And a lot of times you maybe planted a seed, right? And I think people that are working to try to become confident or working to be driven, it's I don't want to say threatening. That sounds kind of intense, but it's like, I'll just go back to when I'm around really successful speakers, it can be intimidating, but it's not that they should be any different. It's just, I have to learn how to become that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Keep shining your light.
Oh, yeah. No, I like to surround myself with people that are far more successful than I am because they aspire me to actually do better.
Yes.
I'm not what I want to be. I'm thriving, yes, but I'm also aspiring to do more, to be better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, although old, I'm still young. So I'm trying.
That's awesome.
So regarding your abilities and your emphasis on words, what is a common misunderstanding that you feel people have of you?
I struggle with self-doubt quite a bit.
Okay.
And so a lot of people think I'm confident. They think that life is easy for me and that I just show up and these things happen. And I have to work on what I think of myself every single day. Like this blueprint is for me every single day. I'm my first client every day.
I like that.
And I think sometimes that's a misconception. I was at a bridal shower over the weekend and have recently moved a couple years ago. So it was back in a neighborhood that I was good friends with a lot of these women. And one of the ladies said, they see me on social media and they see I'm doing this and that. It looks like you're doing so great and you're killing it. I hear that all the time.
Killing it. Yep.
And I don't know how to respond to that because yes, I'm getting a lot of opportunities, but in my mind, I don't think I'm killing it, And I said, well, social media looks better than it always is. You have to promote yourself if you want to be on stage or that's kind of what you do. And the lady said, from my appearance, it seems like everything you do is so easy. And I just thought, no. But what was really telling is then she said, and we're about the same age. She said, I really want to start this and this and this. Mm-hmm. When I do that, will you come speak at it? And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, I just have to get brave enough to start. And I thought, that's the difference, right? Like for me today, I'm taking dreams and desires that are on my heart and I'm working towards them and I'm trying.
You're putting them out there.
Yes, I'm trying. So what people perceive of me is probably none of my business, but it's funny because people will see someone doing things and just think but like you just said, you're still aspiring to do other things. I still am aspiring and feel like I'm not quite to where I want to be. My goals aren't all met and I'm just sitting back going, yes, this is great. There's an acronym that I teach and it's TRY. I love the word try. Now, I know some leadership people don't love the word try. They like the word do, just do. But for me, try really works. And I've broken it down to today. I like to focus on what I'm doing today because if I get too much into the future, anxiety sets in. And if I get too much into the past, regret right?
Yes.
So it is good to have a vision, but I like to kind of focus on today. What am I doing? What are my 3 steps today to move myself forward?
Yes.
Whatever those might be. The R is redirect. So today, redirect, and the Y is your thoughts. So every day you've got to redirect your thoughts to where your vision is, where you're going. And that really helps me keep focused. Because I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, I have been busy and I've been doing stuff all day, but my mind can go, but you didn't get that done and you didn't accomplish that. And so to like redirect and go, wait, but this is what I did do. I did that hard conversation that I didn't want to have. I took the next step and worked on my taxes that I didn't want to do, whatever it might be, right?
Uh-huh.
And like celebrating what you are doing really is a good way for success.
Yeah, for a lot of people, there's a lot of satisfaction that can come from just checking something off.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yes.
And as you were talking about the try, I like the fact that there's something today I can be doing that will actually move me that much closer towards my end goal.
Yes.
And if I can just stay on task and all those fires that come up and all those distractions that occur, if I can at least get 1 or 2 of those things done, that's 1 or 2 things fewer that I have to worry about tomorrow. So I like that. That's really
And
good.
we want to celebrate it. Like we want to celebrate our wins. Because if we don't, we're always chasing something else. We've got to celebrate the good things that are happening along the way.
Now, you brought up acronyms. I think you have an acronym for the word confident, don't you?
Not for confident. What that was.
I saw the post.
Yes. So I was in a storytelling contest.
Okay.
And with the National Speakers Association. So it's their 3rd year, and they took the top 10. You enter, and I was in the top 10, and I competed. And my story was confident, but it was spelled out, a lesson in showing up, because the story is when I was in the 5th grade. I was in the 5th grade spelling bee finals. Okay. And how I practiced. And the story in a nutshell was a little girl heard about you could be in the spelling bee, and that sounded fun. And I got the packet of words, and the teacher is like, go home and practice. And I'm like, I just wanted the trophy. I didn't want to practice. So I go home to my mom and I tell her, Mom, I want to be in the spelling bee. And she says, that's great. I think you could do great at it if you practice. And it was like, I didn't want to practice. I just wanted to show up, be there, and know how to spell. Right. And my mom taught me that you play how you practice. And so she taught me this concept. So that's what the story was about. And so at the end, I ended up getting down to the last 2, and I ended up winning the spelling bee, spelling the word confident. And the idea is that you have to show up to your dream 15 minutes a day. So that was kind of the takeaway for leaders was, what's a dream or goal that you have? What are you spending 15 minutes a day to work towards that? Because, as a little girl, 15 minutes a day, sitting with my mom, practicing the words when it was time, I was confident. I was able to spell the word. Now, you don't always win, but in that story I did. But that was the essence of the story. But it's about practicing. And that kind of goes into abundant thinking. And so I use that story and kind of have crafted that for one of my takeaways in my keynote with intentional leadership and speaking your successes. It takes practice. Yeah. It takes practice. I have to practice these things every day. I have to practice putting on words. I have to look at myself, evaluate how how things are being received by people. And a lot of times people get big dreams. They want to create something, but they don't want to do the little steps because they feel like that's not going to really get me here. Yeah. But it's the little steps. It's the little details. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. That's why I say 15 minutes a day. Like, what are you doing 15 minutes a day to move your story forward? You can make change.
I find that both physically, I find that mentally, I find that spiritually. Yeah. It's just one of those things. So for example, with my exercises, there's 15-minute intervals that I do. Yes. And so 15 minutes, if I can just do that. And I've had instances this year, because I've been exercising very, very much lately, that I've had situations where I'd probably have no more than 30 minutes at the gym. Yeah. And for me, I was like, this day's shot. I want to do at least an hour. Yeah. All I got is a half hour. Yeah. I'm like, no. I can get 2 of my 15-minute intervals in. I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it. And so rather than settling and go, this is just not going to work out, I at least got 2 of the 15-minute intervals I want. From a spiritual point of view, what am I doing that actually self-affirms me, that gives me the confidence I need, the thing that allows me to hold my head high, that in my mind, I'm a child of God, and so therefore I'm entitled to blessings, and these things are mattering to me. So if I can have that mindset, then I can go out and with grace and with a positive attitude, be grateful for all the things that are around me. And gratitude's a big part of my life. But then as it relates to now going into business, what are those tasks that I can do, those routines that I can take care of, that if I can just do it in 15-minute intervals, things get done. And so I like the 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and it's very true. People ask, how did you write your book? And I did it in increments. I didn't just sit down one day and just all the ideas came. Like, creation and creativity comes in the doing. It's in the action. Innovation comes in the doing and taking the action. When you really look back at it, you can't just sit and wait to be inspired. You have to create something. I mean, you've got this conference you were telling me about coming up, right?
Correct, yeah.
You felt inspired to bring people together to create this. There's a lot of work that goes into it, right? You didn't just one day go, oh, let's put this together. People forget that, and then they see that and they go, oh, I could never do that. And it's like, well, you could. You start with an idea, and then you take 15 minutes at a time, and you keep showing up. And you celebrate that you had 30 minutes today to go to the gym, right? Instead of, I didn't get to an hour. It's like, well, I'll try it tomorrow. But today, I'm so glad I was able to carve out at least 2 15-minute increments. Yep. And that's what I did with the book. I would set my timer. And so another author taught me this, and I would do 25 minutes at a time. And so I'd say, okay, I'm going to write 25 minutes, no distractions, turn off all my distractions. Because you know when it's time to show up for your dream, you're like, maybe I'll go fold the laundry. You know, what else can I do? And so I'd get all of my distractions gone. I would just write. I wouldn't reread anything. Then the timer would go off. I'd give myself permission to do it one more time. So I'd have a 5-minute break to use the bathroom if I needed to check my email, whatever. And then I'd write again. And honestly, that was the best thing. And I mentioned that I want to write another book, and I'm wanting to write a book about intentional leadership. And I'm wanting to interview people about what words they put on that are successful in leadership. And I know exactly what I want to do. But I keep waiting for like the perfect time to start. And so recently I've been like, nope, start interviewing people. Just start taking, if you interview one person for 15 minutes today or 20 minutes, like that's enough. And because that's how creation will happen.
Oh, yeah. The thing I'd add is the word do. We were mentioning it earlier, but the point is with do, what are you doing towards that? And if you do things get done. So just do something. Do something. Yeah. So I'm going to go and add a few words to your list. Okay. You started with your 7 words. They were all letter A's. I've, like you, actually looked at successful individuals to find out what has really resonated with me from their success. What can I pin what they're doing as here are the characteristics that I should emulate? Well, the first one is passion. Passion is the thing that I find that everybody that I'm aware of that's successful, you get them talking about what they're doing, they're passionate and it's contagious. They just go on and on about what's going on. They have something to share, something they're doing, something they're excited about. And that passion really starts to become evident. The second is quality. They're very interested in some quality that they're bringing to their product, their service that's distinguishable, something that causes the customer to come back. And so they're very much interested in something that is delivering a sense of quality. The third happens to be that of commitment. They're committed. Doesn't matter what excuse comes up, they're going to get it done. Time, energy, money, they're going to find some way to make it happen. And so they are committed. They're all in. And that's where you find sometimes that they go too far in. But the point is they are committed, though. That's where they're willing to sacrifice and do whatever it takes. And I like that commitment. They don't come up with excuses. That's powerful. The next one is knowledge of the numbers. They know what are the quantifiable things that they need to be tracking to keep basically in a scorecard of how things are progressing. I either did one of these or none of these. I did two of these or I did one of these. I mean, it's what's going on. And they're able to assess from day to day, are things incrementally getting better? And it's at a quantifiable level, which is something that resonates with me because of the accounting side of things, right? It's the numbers,
Makes
okay?
sense.
What can we do with the KPIs to actually identify what's happening in the business? And that's one of the things that I think a lot of them do very, very well at because they know their numbers. The next is one that I used to throw in as a bonus. I would say there's 4 keys to success, and then I'd throw in this 5th. There's just 5 keys. That's what it is. And the last one happens to be personal time. I find that all of them have something that they do to recharge. And from a recharging point of view, I refer to it as work hard, play hard. I work hard, but I also play hard. I go do things that I'm excited about, things that I can look forward to, personal time where I'm able to go and maybe decompress or recharge. But as you were talking about with inspiration, the innovation, I think, does come from doing. There's a lot of that. But sometimes you get kind of this creative block where you're just in the thick of it. And you just need to step back and away. And I can't tell you how many times I'm off doing something and that inspiring little thought comes in. Oh, that's what I need to be doing. And that revelation right there is so helpful simply because of the fact that I've had this mind block of what am I supposed to do in this situation? And I've, tried to think it through. And it's when I've removed myself from the situation, gone somewhere else that all of a sudden my mind is able to wander. And in the behind the scenes at a subconscious level, it's like, hey, this is an issue. Oh, how about this? Why didn't I think about that earlier? And so it's stepping away from the situation that's provided that opportunity. But it does provide me also the time to reconnect with relationships and friends. And so that's really important. So personal time. So those are the 5 things I throw out there. And I just thought because we were going through words, I thought you'd appreciate that passion.
Oh, I love it.
That idea of quality, commitment, knowledge of the numbers, and personal time. So I threw those into the mix.
Well, and thank you. I think it's so true. And that's what the power of words is about, right? You have found that these are they're successful principles. They're truths. And what I like to say is I haven't created new words. I haven't come up with a new, dictionary. I'm just bringing people back to an awareness at the power of words. When I was a couple years into NSA with speaking, I had started, and this other lady had started about the same time. And I stayed focused, and she kind of got distracted with different things, probably life events. And I remember one time her saying to me, "Oh, you've just come up with such a good tagline, and you've come up with such a good message, and I could have done that, And all it was is I kept pursuing my dream. I stayed focused. I kept looking for any opportunity to speak. I kept practicing my craft, right? It's just like, back to what I was saying is be in the 5th grade spelling bee. I had to practice. I had to stay passionate about my message. I had to stay passionate about it. I couldn't expect somebody else to stay passionate about my dream. Nobody else will, right? Even my own husband, who supports me immensely, this isn't his dream. This isn't his, his passion. He's found his own passions and his own things. And I've had to realize that. I like to create with words. He likes to create through building and creating through homes and different things. And that's his passion. When I walk into a house that he wants to fix up, I can't see the potential. Yeah. I can't see it. To me, it's like, this is a train wreck, run away. And he can see the diamond in the rough. I can see the diamond in the rough in other ways, right? And so just finding that. But I think those words are so powerful. And what else I loved is you're putting those in your life. You're consciously putting those words on to keep you moving forward. And then you're sharing that with others, saying, hey, join me. This is working for me. Maybe it will work for you too.
That's right. You brought up the thing that I next wanted to go into, and I'm going to use your segue for this. You've obviously been very successful. And as your friend was saying, you just look at online. Okay, that's great. We're all trying. But what does your success mean to you with the support you've had at home? First of all, with your husband. How has the support of your husband made this possible?
Before I found the power of words, I used to say, my husband is a dreamer and I'm the realist. But what I've come to realize is that he was the dreamer and I was really the pessimist. And so anytime there was something good to happen, I let the worry of the unknown hold me back. And so it's just been really great. He's supported me. He's encouraged me along the way because I still can fall into the trap of pessimism. I still can drive my mind more towards negative thinking. But he's supported me and said, go for it. And he lives his life. One of the principles he's taught me is consistency creates momentum, and momentum cures all. And I, give him credit. I don't think he came up with that, but that's a principle that he has learned, that consistent action. And
it's a mantra he lives by.
Yeah. And so becoming consistent. And so it's been fun for him to see me step out into this new, found excitement. But he also sees that, there's hard things along the way because he's been in the mortgage business and in real estate for 25 years, and he's gone through the ups and downs. And so it's actually helped me better understand him along the way too. So that's been really great. The other thing that's been really good is to just watch my kids watch me go through this, right? And if anything, to teach them that they can create whatever they want, and not to let timing, not to let money, not to let not feeling talented enough hold you back. If you feel passionate about something, I was mentioning to you, my son that is getting his master's degree in accounting. It's been a journey for him. When he was in school, there was a time that he almost dropped out. He just said, I don't know that I want to do that. And someone talked to him and it led him to accounting, and then it's led him to this and that. And it's, now he's graduating and has all these opportunities. And my husband and I were just reflecting and kind of talking to our son about, aren't you glad that you stayed moving forward? Because if you wouldn't have, where would you be? And so a lot of it is just don't quit. Maybe you have to take a different route. Maybe there's a different person you need to meet, but he kept taking those steps, and now he's going to accomplish something. But as you know, you accomplish one thing, then it's, where do I work? What do I create next? Right. But he's going to have that toolkit of knowing how to be successful that he's going to be able to pull from. And that's the biggest thing for me, is I've been learning that. My family's seen it. They support me, and we help each other along the way.
Yeah. What you're doing is very inspiring. I think both from your husband's point of view, but your children's point of view. You've got 6 boys that are 5 boys. Five boys.
6 with my husband. But
there you go.
5.
Yeah, 5 boys. And they're each going to see this evolution of you starting the business, growing into the speaking realm. I mean, these are all things that at afar you can basically go, that maybe not be what I want to do, but it's something that I can take and be inspired by. So yeah, as a parent, you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Now, as it relates to you, what do you do to recharge yourself?
I think for me, taking time in my relationships, having my kids over on the weekends and having them over for dinner, not working on the weekends. For me, I have to, and I'm not always good at this, but I have really worked on it. I have to have an end time of like when I'm not going to think about work, and I allow myself to enjoy a show, go to the movies, go on a date with my husband. I love traveling. I do love going to baseball games. I really love being outdoors. Exercising is very good for me. So making sure that I take time for myself. And I will say in this journey, there have been times that I've gotten off with that, that I've put myself and those things to the side, and everything suffers. Everything suffers. So I think there was a time I was playing pickleball. That was fun. I joined an adult clogging class and was doing some dancing because I'd grown up as a dancer. So just finding different things to try for a little bit, and then do them for as long as you can. And then if it's time to change, it's time to change. The one thing that we all have in common is the amount of time we have. And nobody can create more time. But we do get to choose where we use our time. And so putting your priorities in place, and sometimes even getting enough sleep at night is so important for me. Last night it was about 9:30, and I had one more thing I wanted to do, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to be more successful at that if I get a good night's sleep. And so I just gave myself permission to go to bed early, or to be in bed by 10 o'clock instead of pushing through. And the old Becky would have been like, I've got to get this done. And I realized it didn't have to be done. It doesn't even have to be done today. So I can ask myself, does it have to be done? So just self-care.
I like that. Yeah. As I get older, I wish I could do a little bit more of it.
Well, we all do, right? We all do. But finding that balance. But I love what you said. You work hard to play hard. And we kind of have that philosophy too. And we've had to teach that to our boys because as they've all graduated high school, and they're all great kids, but a lot of them have gone through that thing where they want to like not work very long, like work part-time.
Yeah.
But they want a nice car. They want all the nice things. And my husband's like, listen, I will help you, but I'm not going to, work really hard for you to just play. Like you get up early, you go work hard, and then you have time to play. And they've kind of learned that principle. And I'm so glad that we've kind of instilled that. And I've had to remind myself of that too. So there are times that you do have to work hard. One of the stories I talk about in my book is our family loves to go to Lake Powell. I don't know if you've gone to Lake Powell before.
I've never been.
Oh my goodness. It's one of our favorite things, but
it's one of those things that I live right here. Everyone does it.
Yes.
I've never done it. It's one of those few things that is in the local area that I still haven't yet to enjoy.
But you'll be able to relate in your own way. Lake Powell, it's beautiful and it's a lot of fun, but you know what? You have to load the boat. You have to bring all your food down. You've got kids that are complaining half the time you're going. I mean, think of going on a trip when your kids are younger, right? You have this big vision of it being all great and it's just hard along the way. But I remember one time, and then you get there and you might have boat problems. Something's not working on the houseboat. I mean, there's just always stuff that you're working on throughout it. And then when you get done, you've got to load all the stuff off it and bring it all home and put everything away and everything's sandy and whatever.
Yeah.
And the one time I said to my husband, this was several years ago, but I'm like, is this even worth it? Is this even worth it? Like, is this even a vacation? And he said, Becky, anything of value takes work, anything of value. But the relationships that we've built with our kids and the memories that we've made are priceless. And so you're like, yeah, we'll do it again. And our kids, now that they're married, they're like, when can we go to Lake Powell with you? And they want to come with us. We couldn't have created that any other way. So I think it's just putting the work in, and then you do have to find time to enjoy.
I can 100% relate. So
I knew you would.
In my family, this is what we also experienced. So early on, we would travel and we would go to a hotel and we'd be going and doing things. But with the kids, the thing that they enjoyed the most was the pool at the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you got to be kidding me. I've come across we flew out here. We've stayed here. We've done all these activities that cost all this money. Yep. And you're saying the most enjoyable thing was the free pool in the hotel? This is ridiculous. We could have just gone and done a staycation and just gone to a hotel and got a pool. The point is that's what they remember, though. They enjoy it. And they enjoyed the other things.
Oh, yeah.
They do remember the other activities. But the point was, I'm pretty frugal with my money. I like to not know what things cost. I have an arrangement with my wife. It's very simple. If we can afford it, fine. She has a vacation fund. She funds it. If the money's there, we can do the activity. And all I ask is, can we afford it? If we can afford it, I don't care how much it is. And I hate conversations about the costs. What Disney is ludicrous. The fact for a carnival, I'm paying this much money to go stand in line and get on a little merry-go-round.
It's crazy. Huh?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely astounded. Do not tell me how much that costs. And so I literally will put my hands over the ears as they're talking about it, but I enjoy it. Yes. I have fun there.
Yes.
I enjoy the activity. The kids love it. I've got a daughter that's a Disney fanatic. My point, however, is this. I can ask my kids what they got when they were 10 years old for their birthday or Christmas or whatever, and they couldn't tell me. But I could pull up, hey, do you remember this year we went here and it would have been the year of their 10th birthday or their 15th birthday? And oh, yeah, I remember that. And we can talk about activities and trips that we've been on because they were the experiences where we paid for their undivided attention. Mm-hmm. We paid where the friends weren't there, the devices weren't on. We were doing something that was just us as a family, and we've got pictures and we can talk about it. And these things are memories that are irreplaceable. And it took me a number of years to realize that. But when I put this together, it was some studies I was doing as I was preparing for my talk as it related to personal time, by the way. Mm-hmm. And I learned all this stuff and I got all these stats. Well, one of the findings is they found that you can invest in material things and they will all either disappear, break, they will, be given to the goodwill, but the memories can't and they won't. the memories are what everyone looks back on. And that's where you build your relationships. And those experiences are what become those lasting bonding things. It's the cement that holds the relationship together. A family that does things together stays together.
Yeah.
It's that phrase of a family that prays together stays together. Well, a family that does things together stays together. So everything that you just shared, I completely relate to.
Well, and when I was putting on the power of words through t-shirts, what I finally realized is you don't need the t-shirt to put on the words.
Yeah.
It is a great reminder. And it was
physical.
A good physical reminder, right? And that's okay. I invite people to put positive messaging in their lives. Find mantras, find I am statements. I have a little Embrace Your Greatness book. It's a little flip book and you can put it in your life. It's got 52 I am statements. So every week I look at one of them. It's got an I am statement, I am creative. It's got the definition of what that is. And so every day as I walk through my house, I can stop for just 30 seconds and intentionally go, oh yeah, I'm creative. And I cannot tell you how many times my life, that word becomes really paramount in my life for that week, like because I've brought attention to it, right? So, but then I realized it's our choices. It's where we choose to use our time. It's where we choose to put our focus. And we can have these big ideas to create these like relationships, but really it's becoming intentional with ourselves. Am I going to be present in the relationship? You know, they might not be. My kids might roll their eyes at me, but I'm going to be intentional. Yeah. So even so much as just putting my phone away and just being present in the moment, being in the kitchen, doing dishes with my 14-year-old son, Jack, right now, you know, talking to him, not being on a phone call. Those are the things that recharge me actually too.
Yeah, being present is huge. That's a big part of some of the things I emphasize. The one other thing I would add to this is, do you remember the stencils that people used to put on their home walls?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a common thing with decor anymore, but anyways, we have those. But the thing that happened is at that time, we were actually moving offices. And in my office, I have stencils on the wall.
Okay.
And I love it. It's part of the decor. But the point is it's these powerful phrases that I think are very good reminders of things that are important to me as I run my business. And these things are ever present. They're in front of me. I see them all the time.
They're reminders.
Yeah, they're reminders. And so, and they are words. They're not images, they're words. And so as it relates to how I run the business, these are the mantras and the codes, if you will, as how I actually prioritize things in the business. So yeah, I get what you're talking about.
I go into a lot of high schools, middle schools, elementary schools to do speaking. And most schools, whether you call it decorate or whatever, they have powerful words on their walls.
Yeah.
With powerful leaders, Winston Churchill, Abe Lincoln, you know, Gandhi. And they're just different. I mean, it's the universal thing that I see in most schools. And there's a truth to that, right? But what's fascinating is we share that with our kids, but then as we become adults, we stop putting the power of words to work for us. So I always want to work with the teachers because I want to say, okay, you're wanting to teach this to the students, but what words are you putting in your life today? Because if you're not refilling your soul, it's hard to pass that down. You can't give from an empty well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so those phrases, whether you look at them consciously or not every day, you know, don't just walk by words. Like I like to ask myself, what words do I need today? You know, ask yourself that today, Roger. What words do you need? And you'll start seeing them. You might hear it in a song. Yeah. You might hear it from a conversation. That's one little phrase kind of keeps going through your mind that you needed that day. You might hear it in something you read. It just might be from a conversation a couple weeks ago, right? Who knows where they are? And it's going to be different for you or me, but if you start looking, you'll find them.
I like that. No, it's really good. Okay, I'm going to go off the wall with you here.
Okay.
We're going to get a little creative here just to kind of spruce things up. If you can go anywhere in the world because of your travels and such, where would it be?
I think I want to go to Dubai.
Oh yeah, I'd like to go.
I think I want to experience that. I see just it seems kind of exotic and amazing. So I think that's something that I would like to go. I would love to have a speaking opportunity in Dubai.
That would be amazing. Yeah, there's a lot going on
like
there.
Like where they pay for me to fly there.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. No, I've got Dubai on my list. Yeah, there's a few things that I'd like to actually see there. In fact, I've done some research and it's fascinating. So yeah, that'd be an interesting trip.
Yeah.
All right. Where would you like to move if you could move? Because I know you're moving. You just mentioned that you're moving before we started. So where would you like to move if not here in Utah?
Oh, man. I have always said that I would love to live in New York City.
Interesting.
But for 1 year. Okay. So I'd like to move there for a year.
All right.
I just think living off the subway and kind of in that life sounds so fun to me but I don't think I'd want to do it forever.
Yeah.
So I've even said that to my husband, like, I would love to go to either New York or Boston. I love Boston. I love Massachusetts. And we are big baseball players. So I think I'd love to move someplace and like follow a team and like go to their games and just be like diehard fans. Like to me, that sounds really fun. I don't think I'd want to stay there for a long time, but that would probably be where I'd say. Other than that, I'm pretty happy here.
All
in
right.
Utah.
Being a baseball person, do you have as a bucket list to go to all of the different stadiums?
Yes, we would like to do that.
Have you started?
Yeah. It's funny. We plan most of our trips. Well, when we're a place, if there's baseball, we try to plan around it. And we actually are going to Arizona in a couple of weeks to spring training.
Yep.
Our son plays baseball, so he's playing in a tournament, but we've already been looking at being at some games. I don't follow the players. I don't know the players. Don't ask me stats. But I have learned so much about competitive sports, and especially the game of baseball. It's a game of failure. And so when you learn that, and I teach that principle a lot in success with leadership, a really great hitter fails 7 out of 10 times generally. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
But they keep showing up. What keeps them showing up? So I do love, there's something about baseball that I love, but I don't know the players. It's more just the experience. I don't know. And it's probably because I've had that relationship with each of my boys have played competitive baseball and my husband's coached them. I didn't grow up liking baseball. I thought it was boring and slow, but I've come to, put me outside at a baseball game and I know someone playing and I'm really happy.
All right. So not that my listeners will care, but did you have any feelings regarding the stadium being torn down there at the Bees Stadium? I was told that was one of the best stadiums as to its view of the Wasatch Front in the entire country.
Yeah. I didn't have any real big thoughts about it. I'm not a big, I've gone to the Bees games and I like them, right? I was more hopeful that maybe Utah would get an MLB team.
Okay.
Like my boys were like, that would be so awesome. And I'm like, that would be fun.
I think they're still trying to.
And I think they still are. So I'm more like on that. But they're building the new stadium in South Jordan, which I live in South Jordan. And I'm excited about it.
Good.
I think where it was at, it's kind of getting run down. And there's pros and cons to both sides. You can see both sides. So I'll go to the new one and cheer them on. But
all right. Because words are so important in this conversation, who's someone famous, living or dead, that you would like to sit down and speak with?
I really like the book, The Compound Effect.
Oh, okay.
That's been a big part of when I tried to decide to name my book. I thought, it's the word effect, kind of like the compound effect. It's by Darren Harding, I mean. And he's living now, but I would love to talk with him. I love his principles because it's bite size and it's the compound effect of like it's little things lead to big things. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to talk to him. And someone else that has really influenced me, it's a quote, and it starts out, little things lead to big things. And it was Richard G. Scott, and he was a 12th apostle for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I would love to I'd love to talk to him about some of the little concepts that he's taught because they've changed my life. Like they are like, I always tell my kids when I die, I know that they'll talk about this quote, little things lead to big things. And his quote was that like bad decisions can lead to bigger bad things, but little good decisions can lead to a bountiful, blessed life. And I think those two are like what come to mind right now.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. Okay. So if you now had an opportunity to actually speak with someone that was interested in asking you questions, who's someone that you would like to actually kind of visit with? Is it a child? Is it a sibling? Is it your parents? Who would you like to just meet with about you?
I love when my boys ask me for my opinion or they ask me for advice. Mm-hmm. And so probably just family members, just, being there. But I honestly, I love to share what I'm passionate about. And I really love to hear what other people are passionate about too. So just put me in front of a conversation and I'm happy. When I was a little girl, my mom said, "Does your mouth ever get tired of talking?" And it was like, no. So I just think I love the connection piece. So I'm happy kind of just connecting with people, but I do love having a close connection with my family.
You mentioned that you're a grandmother now.
Yes.
I'm a grandfather. It's a new stage. What do you think has changed you about that, becoming a grandmother?
Definitely, I'm realizing all the things that I worried about before, most of them don't matter. I watched my daughter-in-law and my son kind of worry about, oh, she doesn't eat her food and she doesn't do this. And I just think, oh, they're going to be fine. Like, don't worry, don't sweat the small stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But then I think back and I was like, I did the same thing, you know? So I think perspective over time, you just can love these children and you see so much potential in them and you don't have to be the one raising them. So I just want to offer love and like be their biggest cheerleader. I mean, that's really what I want. And when they come, I want to stop what I'm doing and hug them and love them and just let them know that I'm just cheering them on wherever they're at.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Words. We've talked a lot about words today. Is it the written word or the spoken word that you value the most?
Oh, I don't know if I could say I value one more than the other. For me, the spoken word is very, very influential, but I do look for words that are written all the time. I read, I put little words, you know, I put them down as reminders. So I think you need both. But I don't think you have to. Some people think that I'm a really good writer or I'm a really good, like I'm very, my English is very good, and that's not what this is about, right? And it's just becoming intentional to the words. But I think you need both. I think that the written word is so powerful, and I don't think you need a lot of it. But I think putting positive messaging in your lives, podcasts, I think are really powerful too. So I just think choosing words. I even have playlists of music that I think the power of music is so pivotal in my life. And I have different ones that, you know, joyful and make me feel happy or make me feel determined or whatever. So I think both need to be in place.
Oh yeah. No, regarding music, I find that I listen to a certain type of music in the home, another kind of music when I'm driving, another kind of music when I'm off I have a side-by-side that I'm going off-roading with, and I listen to a certain thing with that. I have a certain type of music I like when I'm in the office. I mean, each setting has its own little thing, and so I do enjoy that. So it's interesting to see that they have their own place. Yeah. Do you have a favorite genre of music?
Not necessarily. I like right now. I'm kind of drawn to words that like music with powerful words. My husband and I are watching the series This Is Us. I know it's kind of an older one, but we had never seen it the first time. It's on Netflix. And I can't tell you how many times. It's a pretty intense show, and it shows like, you know, the essence of evolution of raising a family.
Yeah, it does.
You don't have any control.
It's phenomenal.
But so many times the words of the music, I'm like, this is so powerful. And like, it's impacting me in my life. I mean, and I'm like, hey, Siri, what's the name of this song so I can add it to my playlist, you know, or learning. And one of them the other day was, it was a song that I was like, I'd heard it before, but it was remaked by a different person. And I was like, I think that's my new favorite song, just because the words had that impact. So I do love the spoken word. What I really love, though, is I've just become aware to words.
Yeah.
And so I look for them, and then they just kind of grab my attention. And when they grab my attention, I take notice of them, and I just kind of like become more curious. One of the biggest things that I think any entrepreneur needs is the feeling of curiosity, because what's making you curious about this? What curiosity fuels success? So staying curious. So like when words do impact me, like, well, why are these words, you know, impacting me today? What are they telling me? And that really helps me kind of keep discovering.
I like it. All right. I'm going to throw one at you that I'm thinking might be a surprise.
Okay.
Your opinion on swearing or profanity?
When I was in 5th grade, I had a couple friends, and we thought it was cool to swear. Probably because it seemed rebellious. And I remember we would say the silliest things, but we got into it. But not too long after that, I realized I didn't like how those words made me feel. And so I have just chosen to stay away from talking that way. If people swear, they swear. That's their choice. But I do think there is an effect with it. And I would just say, for me, sometimes when I hear people say things, it doesn't make any sense that they add those, adjectives in, right?
Yeah.
And so if, every once in a while, I might say something under my breath, but I tend to try to choose different words for me. And I think a lot of it was just how it made me feel.
Yeah.
I kind of experimented that when I was a young girl, and I just didn't like who I was becoming. And so I've tried to choose better words. Now, does it mean that I always say happy, nice things? No. And I can be mean sometimes, and I've had to learn to say I'm sorry. But I don't really like those words.
It's interesting you bring that up because I've found I travel quite a bit and I go to conferences and so forth. And I always find it interesting in a professional setting when profanity is brought in. Yeah. And I find it's for me, I've realized I think it's more of a posturing type thing.
Yeah.
And as they position themselves in the discussion, it's more or less a shock factor. They're trying to draw attention to themselves. But I find it fascinating in a business context. Mm-hmm. Why the vocabulary there? I don't understand in many instances what's happening here. So I try to understand, okay, why did they choose to do that there? Because obviously it didn't have its place. It's out of context, mm-hmm. right? And then the other thing is in a social setting, I'm curious, what's going on here? Why the words that they're using? Now, my context for all of this is I used to work at the federal or the state prison. Okay. And at the state prison, I actually was around the convicts. And as I interacted with them, they swore like sailors.
Yes,
all right.
I'm
they
sure.
were very, very profane. And anybody, they can give anyone a run for their money. And I heard it. But the point is we had a work environment where when they came into this particular room, they could not profane. And if they did, they lost their employment. So this was an employment they had at the state prison that enabled them to purchase basically their essentials, like the toothpaste, the toothbrush. So they could go to the commissary and get things because they were employed. Well, they didn't want to lose this. It was a valuable thing. And so they would walk through that door and they wouldn't swear at all. The moment they walked out the door, it was a totally different thing. And I'd go in the hallway and I'd hear them and everything. And it was fascinating to me that they could turn it on and turn it off as quickly as they did. And the thing I'm bringing up with this is I was at the time interacting with individuals that they likewise would swear, but then when they get around like family, they wouldn't anymore. Yeah. And I would talk to them. I'm like, why do you do that? And it was just who I am. This is how I talk. This is the way I speak. And I'm like, no. I have seen the epitome of the person that is the most crashed individual in the world say things and then walk into a room and speak intelligently. They can do it. You can do it. You're choosing to do these things. And so it was kind of an interesting conversation. So yeah, I have this fascination with profanity only because even since I was younger, I haven't profaned. My children know me as not profaning. In fact, the joke that exists in my household is they know when I'm losing my mind because I'll start profaning. They know that either dementia or Alzheimer's has kicked in because that filter is turned off. And I think that's actually true because yes, I think these things. Yes, I think, the frustrations do come up, but whether I vocalize them or not is a totally different thing because I do believe words have meaning. They have power. And if I'm choosing to use them, it's for a reason. So if I need the shock value, I've got it. It's a fascinating conversation.
One time with one of my sons, he was struggling in high school. And I remember a lady that was 20 years older than me that I really respected said, you know what you're trying to do is you want your kids to be who they are in front of you, who they are with their friends, right? Mm-hmm. And the struggle was he was being one person with his friends, but then he was being somebody else when he was with his parents. Exactly what you're saying, right? Yeah. He would never do those things in front of his parents, but with his friends, he would do those things. Yeah. And that has really stuck with me. And I've asked myself that before. Am I the person at home that I am on the stage? Am I the person, and I think that's why when I was a little girl, I just chose, it just didn't align with who I was. Yeah. Right. And I do think you have the power to choose to change. If it's a bad habit, you can change it. Most of the time we have to give new ideas the opportunity to bloom. So my book is 7 Simple Words to Create Your Most Beautiful Life. Because you're creating it. You have to let it nurture and grow. You can't just start putting on positive messaging or stop swearing, let's say, for 2 days and see that your life changes. But make a commitment to make some changes with where you focus and then look back in a year and see what changes, right? So often we're used to that immediate gratification. So we stop doing it for a few minutes here and there, and then we're like, nothing's changing, right? That's the same with any words that we choose to put on. Most of the stories I share and experiences that I can offer, it's when I look back and see how it's been nurtured and developed. In the moment, you can't always connect the dots.
Yeah.
You can't always see that. But I'm sure you can look back and see how your life is different because of the choices you made by the words you're putting in your life.
And it's partly because of the fact that I knew who I was wanting to become, who I was trying to be like, who I was emulating. And as I was able to get clarity very young as to who I was hoping to become, I knew the path to be that. I knew what that meant and what that would look like. So that makes a lot of sense.
Well, my t-shirt business was Becoming Threads. And when I decided to step into coaching and speaking, my business is now Becoming with Becky, because I love the word becoming, because you're becoming. It's an active word. And why I say with Becky is because it's like, I'm working on it too. Like, where are we headed? And let's let words keep us moving forward, whether it's a professional goal, personal, whatever.
I love this. It's gone a lot longer than I expected, by the way. You're going to be shocked at this as to the time. But as for my listeners, there's a few things that I want to do at this point. I do want to actually first do a little promotion. You said that book that you wrote, The 7, actually, no, it's not
The
that.
Word Effect, 7 Simple Words to Create Your Most Beautiful Life. Yeah.
That's right. The Word Effect. That is available on your website. So in the episode description, we're going to put a link for that. So you can actually go to the episode description and get a copy of that for free. So go to the episode description and take advantage of that opportunity. In addition to that.
Let me stop.
Hold on.
The Word Effect, 7 Simple Words to Create Your Most Beautiful Life isn't the free book. That's just the book you can get on Amazon, or you can get on my website. The free book is called The One Word Way.
That One Word Way.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that.
And it's a free book. It's a free ebook. And so take where you're at. It's 3 simple words to start changing every single day in your life that we use all the time. And one of them is focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do. So there's simple words that we all use. And it's just a little ebook that you can use with your family. You can use with your employees. And you can use in your own life, just becoming aware to those words.
I'm glad you clarified that, because one's for free and one's not. So if you want the free one, go to the episode description. You'll get the information you need there. But in addition, go buy the book, The Word Effect. That is a great book. It covers those 7 words that we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Definitely ones to figure out a little bit more about and how to apply them in our lives. So definitely go check that out. In addition, you want to actually go get a copy of the book, Your Strategic Accountant. It's talking about how your business can actually meet the needs of your clients as it relates to the accounting services you're offering. But it ties in as it relates to words, what it is that you're using to describe bookkeeping services versus accounting services versus CFO and advisory services versus tax planning, tax preparation. We need, as a profession, to do a better job communicating what it is we're offering so we can set the expectations, manage the expectations, and exceed the expectations of our clients. So get the book, Your Strategic Accountant, and figure out what it is that you can do to better articulate and explain your services so your clients know what it is you're doing and have an expectation of what it is they're paying for. So get a copy of that book as well. In addition to that, I want to actually summarize the conversation. I think this has been a great discussion. I know that we covered a lot, so I'm going to do my best to try and summarize a few things here, but we started back obviously with your having some personal issues, some things that were struggling for you, and it caused you to realize, what can I do to change this? And words were powerful for you. And with the support of your spouse, you were able to get into a situation where you and your sister saw the need for t-shirts, and you went and started a t-shirt company, and you were offering positive, affirming words that someone could wear, that they could put on. I like that. That story really resonates with me. The other thing that was really powerful is that you took this dream and you actually then proceeded to pursue this idea of becoming a speaker. You joined the National Speakers Association. I think that's awesome, because you then started to associate with individuals that were actually doing what you were wanting to do and you were learning from them. But we talked about not just mimicking success, but actually trying to find your authentic voice. And I thought you were powerful in pointing out that we need to actually find what's unique about us and leverage that in our marketing. In addition, you talked about your book, and we went through those 7 words. I liked how we were actually starting with acknowledge. Acknowledge is powerful. That's where I think all things begin. It's that recognition, that realization that something needs to change or be different. And when you can acknowledge that, then you can act on that. And then to end with the word aspire. Aspire was awesome. Just the fact that we were able to actually say, okay, but there's something more. Once we've gotten to someplace, we can realize that there's even more that we can be doing. And I like the fact that we're on that continual journey. So beautiful words. They were all with the letter A. So that was nice. So that was a nice tie-in. But we went through a number of things here that I think were evolutionary. We applied how these terms work in business, how we communicate more effectively. We talked about how with your children, they were inspired by you and they're being inspired by you. I really like the fact that you're able to see the support of your family as it related to the things you're doing. The other thing that I wanted to bring into this is this whole conversation about when we're out there doing our best, there's always something that we need to do from a self-talk point of view. We have to understand that the words we're saying to ourselves matter. And if we can actually be a little bit more conscious of what we're saying on a day-to-day basis, we can actually focus on things to move forward, the baby steps. And that comes to the acronym of TRY that you shared. What can today you be doing to actually affect your decisions? That acronym was wonderful simply because of the fact that it allows us to see it can be simple. And we address the difference between try and do, but all of this was relevant and it all stems from the words of choice that we're actually finding in our lives. So love the conversation. This has been a great discussion as it relates to words and how it impacts us individually, what we're saying with our self-talk, professionally, what we're communicating with our clients and our employees. But at the end of the day, are we recognizing what it is we're saying? So would you add anything more to that?
No, I think that was such a great recap. Just remember that you have a choice each day. Words we all have access to. We all have access to the words we choose to put in our lives in all different ways. And so just become aware to it. And if you're not creating the life you want, start looking at your words, change your words, and you can change your story, just like I have.
I love it. Becky, you're amazing. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Everyone, obviously, if you've liked today's episode and would like to, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast. We each and every week have a new episode that comes out. It's here that we talk to the experts, find out things that we can be doing professionally and personally to, in fact, build what I refer to as the premier accounting firm in your area. In addition to this, one of the things that I'd also like to do is invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is a conference for owners of bookkeepers, accountants, basically bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. You want to come as an owner. Why? Because you hear from the experts, but more importantly, you get to meet your peers, those individuals like you who are doing exactly what you're doing. You get to be inspired by them. You get to collaborate with them. You get to build friendships with them. In addition, you get to meet my team, those here at Universal Accounting who are committed to your success, allowing you to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So join us at GrowCon. If you haven't registered yet, get your ticket and join us. It's an event each and every year for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses that you do not want to miss. Now, in addition to all these things, if you'd like to learn more about these principles and other things that we've discussed, go to universalaccounting.com. There in the navigation, you can find the podcast section where we've collected highlights. These are playlists that we've compiled of others episodes that you can actually binge listen to. These are things that you can go into as it relates to your current situation, whether or not you would like to dive into marketing, pricing, staffing, onboarding clients, client retention, mental health. All these topics are there for you to actually dive into and binge listen so that you can focus on the things that matter most today in your business. So take advantage of those playlists. Lastly, if you would like to discuss these principles or more, give us a phone call. You can reach out at 801-265-3777 or visit us at universalaccountingschool.com. Always remember this, accounting success is universal. And also be safe out there. Have a great day and have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.